I guess I didn't swag enough. Stupid fruity pebble chain. We bag enough. I guess I didn't swag enough. Stupid fruity pebble chain. We bag enough. Poppin' tan model BC couldn't brag 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 enough. I guess I didn't swag enough. Stupid fruity pebble chain.
And welcome once again to another episode of the Horizon Roundtable. I am Bob McDonald, and joining me, because it looks like we were able to successfully dig him out of his snow, is Jim Sarro.
I'm actually surprised. I shouldn't be, but the snow lasted. It came down like nobody's business, and now a week later, it's entirely melted because it's spring, and because the Horizon League season is over for men's basketball. We'll have to find something else to think about for a while.
By the way, I'm super impressed that you thought there was going to be enough snow on the ground this weekend for you to go skiing. I consider that very impressive.
I was going to drive 2.5 hours, and there is enough snow. It's just too warm to be out there, be sweating.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you don't want to do that. So.
No.
All right, Jim, you can find on Twitter at Jim Sarro. You can find us on the web at horizonroundtable.com. You can find links to all of our social media accounts and sites where podcasts are available at horizonroundtable.com/subscribe. In fact, you can still sign up for the email. You can sign up for email alerts. We're not going to be, we're going to have articles, and you can have them sent directly to your inbox by signing up for emails at horizonroundtable.com/subscribe. Become a patron, patreon.com/horizonroundtable. That's going to be very important in the summertime because we're doing the features again, and they will be exclusive to patrons. You can sign up for as little as $1. We had some good ones last year. In fact, I made one public earlier this week of the Nordgaard family. You definitely need to read that. But that's an example of the stuff we did last year. We're doing it again this year. Patreon.com/Horizon Roundtable. And of course, you can always donate to us at horizonroundtable.com/donate. And Jim, yes, spring has arrived, March Madness has arrived, but sadly, aside from a few WNIT games, our March Madness has ended. Sadly. But not without a fight.
They definitely. We talked about last week on the podcast. Expecting big things from both the Wright State men and the Green Bay women, and yeah, both came up short in the end, but both gave their opponent a hell of a game. The Wright State game. If you think about what most people were probably expecting from a seed line of that nature, was not going to be a 9-point game. It wasn't going to be Wright State leading the game with 5 minutes left in the game. So Wright State was right there. They showed well for the Horizon League and basically did what Wright State did the entire season, which is prove us all wrong and, not care about what anybody else thought, and just went out there and kicked butt. And they played a great game. And if you think about, there's a lot of stories that come out of that game. They were right there, and that's with their two freshmen who seemed way older, in Cooper and Pickett, not really being able to contribute statistically to the game. Cooper had 13 points, but it was relatively inefficient, and Pickett went 0 for 3 with only 5 rebounds. So they were right there because they got it from their other guys, and that was the story of Wright State the whole season.
Indeed. And yeah, exactly. The story of the game really was, obviously they had those guys, but Solomon Callahan got super hot quick, and then all of a sudden Michael Amari Bay started shooting 3-pointers and hitting them. I had to double check this, Jim. He only shot 6 3-pointers total the entire season. 6! He only shot 6 the entire season. And yet, here he is in an NCAA tournament game, the most important game of their lives, and he ended up hitting 5. He was 5 of 9. Where'd that come from?
Well, Bob, if you think back to the start of the season, we were all wondering who's going to hit threes for these guys, and it turns
Everybody.
out everybody. And in the case of Michael,
just like the same question, who's going to score for them? Everybody.
everybody. And in the case of Michael Margve, in the ultimate game of chestnut checkers, he just saved his 3-point attempts for at the end when they really needed it and wouldn't be in the scouting report. Simple as that.
I mean, had to.
You know, you see him. He. It's not like a guy that when you look at him, you're like, oh, he's not going to be able to shoot. He just hasn't used that role for Wright State.
Well, also he hasn't really needed to. That's not his. To your point, that's not his role. His role is to be the guy up front. He's got scoring options all over the place. Like you're especially from beyond the arc. I mean, Solomon Callahan was tabbed to be the guy from beyond the arc, and well, that was what he did this time. They couldn't stop him either, by the way. And he 100% was in the scouting report, and he had no problem shooting 3-pointers either in this game. I mean, this game was super close. They were winning. Wright State was winning until like the 5-minute mark of the second half.
They took a 70-67 lead at the 5:32 mark. They're still it took then Virginia scored 4 points, and at the 4:07 mark took the lead for the final time. And Wright State unfortunately went into a untimely drought, I should say, because they didn't score again from 5:32. They didn't score again until 1 minute when Amari Bay hit another 3, which was their final points of the game, to get them from 70 to 73. But you have to just look at the game and be like, they scared the crap out of Virginia in this game. They were right there. They showed well for the Horizon League. And, I mean, I'm not going to get on some high horse about scheduling and all these other things that, many mid-majors and now high major coaches are talking about in their post-game press conferences. Mm-hmm. But certainly they played better than the seed they were given. And in a era where the underdog, especially in the second round of the NCAA tournament, didn't really go anywhere. Mm-hmm. It felt good. You felt alive as a Horizon fan sitting there watching, semi doing your work, maybe semi work watching the game. Yeah.
I had the good fortune of having a Windows update happen by complete and total coincidence and couldn't work. Sorry. Darn.
Oh. Yeah, and
isn't it? Don't you hate when Windows just automatically updates in the most inopportune times?
Yeah, and then the VPN wouldn't come back on, so I couldn't work remotely. It was just a mess, but
just a tragedy all around. And your boss is going to be off the next week, and I mean, darn, that's so all those that series of unfortunate events that forces you to watch NCAA tournament basketball.
I would have never seen it coming. It was like so random, but
totally random.
Wright State, great game. They got a great game. Yeah, even Birch, like not the best shooting game for him, but he did what TJ Birch does. Like he stirred the pot. He scored, from deep. He scored in the lane. He, got to the line a little bit. Like he did, I take that back. He didn't get to the line that much yet. He made 1 free throw, but he did. TJ Birch things. He had 5 steals in this game. Yeah, he did exactly what the defensive player of the year in the Horizon League has done. Disrupt Virginia. And he did. He had 5 steals. I mean, he was basically more of he did get 15 points. I mean, he definitely scored. It's kind of a quiet 15 points, but he was more of a force at the defensive end, and he definitely was in that first half when they absolutely needed him. Yeah. I think the only place where we went wrong with this game is what's our friend? Is it Todd who has the Summit League podcast?
Yes, Todd Buckingham. Yes,
Todd, I couldn't think of Todd's last name. We needed the scouting report from Todd because it turns out Wright State was only one Ja'Cory White away from winning, and of course he spent 2 or 3 years at North Dakota State. And apparently,
I know we should have asked Todd or Tim Hill. What do you know about the guy? I'm like, see, we didn't do that. We did not do that.
Because you think about it, like Ja'Cory White in this game was 10 for 12, 6 for 8 from 3. He only played 24 minutes, and he had 26 points in 24 minutes, and he's the difference in the game. At an oversimplified level, but you're not expecting a guy who averaged 9. Now, granted, he was a very good shooter all season long at 44%
Mhm.
from deep, but he only averaged 9 per game, so he's not the focal point of the offense, and yet
Well,
he
I
uh,
mean,
he did a
like
lot
we
of
talked.
damage.
The thing is, though, like we talked about last week, Virginia doesn't really have a focal point. I mean, they have DeRidder, who is the top scorer, but he only averages 15 and a half points a game. And you have this entire team, none of these guys, I brought this up last week, none of these guys average more than 29 minutes a game. And it turns out, as I'm looking at the box score, that's exactly what happened. DeRidder and Sam Lewis, they were the ones who were on the court the most, and they were not even on the court 30 minutes. They were both on the court for 29. But yeah, to your point, I mean, talk about efficiency. That Jakari White, I mean, in 24 minutes, I mean, he killed them. He absolutely killed them, um, and we talk, and I know we talked a little bit about this, and we've talked about this ongoing. Is this the never-ending arms race in college basketball now, and the fact that a guy like Jakari White, who was in the Summit League, and he gets an opportunity at Virginia, and he killed him. He absolutely killed. He absolutely killed for them
Bob,
on Friday. And where's it was the determining factor by all counts in
we
that
should
game
have
at the
seen this.
down stretch.
We should have seen this coming. It's so obvious, and in hindsight, Jakari White played for North Dakota State. Their big
Yeah.
rival is South Dakota State. Clint Sargent's
Mm,
the South Dakota State guy. It all lines up
revenge.
now. Yep. It all lines up now. That hatred, that rivalry runs deep. We just didn't realize it extended to after they'd both moved on to this game. But yep, that's what
Far,
it is.
far on to this game because Clint Sargent hasn't been at North Dakota State for more than a decade.
South Dakota State.
South Dakota State, sorry. Oh Jesus! Let's see what I did there. I'm like, okay, yeah,
But
but yeah,
all kidding aside,
you're correct.
all kidding aside, I mean, it's Wright State. I thought when you see their pieces, you see the way the guys are built physically. I felt confident last week that they were going to show well. I picked them in my
Yeah,
pool, and they didn't disappoint. Even if the final score is disappointing for fans around the league, they did not disappoint. They were right there, and it was awesome.
yeah,
And it continues the streak of you think of Northern Kentucky versus Houston, Oakland versus Kentucky, Robert Morris versus Alabama, now Wright State versus Virginia. It goes a long way towards legitimizing the league when our representative
hmm
gets in the tournament, and in the case of Oakland wins, but in the other games they were right there. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
we're right
They
there now.
were
Our top teams
exactly.
getting it to the tournament are right there. We're right on the cusp, and quite frankly, you think of like a better Akron team than, or historically better, because they're consistent in the tournament. Would they lose by like
Yeah,
20 in the tournament? I mean,
as did Miami of Ohio. I know that's a sore spot for some people, but no, I mean, but at the same time, those are extreme. To your point, Akron and Miami of Ohio are extremely good teams. I mean, they proved that the entire year. I mean, but this is the NCAA tournament, man. If you have one bad game, it's gonna bite you bad. But to your point, and I feel like we have to have this conversation because you know, this has kind of been the I hate to say it undertone of the entire tournament because of the fact that we have we have all these power conference teams. They basically, I mean, as far as the tournament is concerned, it's been pretty chalky. It is just at this point. And if you on the surface, if you look at it on the surface, it's like, okay, we all expected this. This is the end result of the transfer portal and NIL and all of this, everything we've talked about over the course of the last 2 or 3 years. But to that point, it's especially when it comes to a team like Wright State. Yeah, they lost, but they weren't that far off. They weren't that far off. Robert Morris wasn't that far off, as you mentioned. Oakland definitely wasn't that far off. They were within a hair of making it to the Sweet 16 in 24. Northern Kentucky, we continue to. I can't. We need to remember what Northern Kentucky did against Houston,
Houston.
because they give Houston all kinds of headaches in 23. And when you look at that, and you look at that against the landscape of where we are at in college basketball today, and we see all of like the everybody kind of, you know, my favorite thing is, people being doomy about, oh, this is the end of college No, we're not that far off. We're not that far. We are not that far off, even with all of that, taking all of that into account. Even with all of that taken into account. Oh, the landscape, of course, dictates that the faces we see this year will. There's a good chance all of the faces we see this year are not going to be the faces we see next year. But I think we've gotten used to that, guys, right? We have gotten used to the fact that we are actually, uh, for us, as Horizon League fans, the I think it comes down to school. It actually comes down to the name in front of the name in front of the jersey. It just does. So, and if you're a Wright State fan, you got to be super happy right now. You got to be super happy about the way things are going. And will they change? Yes, of course. But they changed last year. They changed last year, and as it turns out, Clint Sargent was able to get the guys he was able, because we weren't sure what they were getting. And from what it sounds like, hearing Clint Sargent during the tournament, during the NCAA tournament, and even during the Horizon League tournament, he wasn't all that confident after that 15 and 8, his first year, that 15 and 18 season, but he put in the work and they got here. And I think that's kind of the dynamic that we have to have in the Horizon League now, is that, yes, and this, by the way, this has been going on for a while now. It's been going on for years. It's been going on probably as long as we've had this podcast. Is that, yes, you're going to have teams with good years. Yes, a good chunk of those, some of those players are going to end up in the portal, and there's nothing you can do about that. And yes, the key to your long-term success is how your coaches are going to adjust to the reality that we are here now. And that's kind of where we're at.
And I feel like for Wright State,
deal with it, people.
I would say, I feel like for Wright State in particular, like, it's I know it's early here in terms of they just lost and the season just ended. And to your point, Bob, some of those guys may not return. They're going to have opportunities.
Of course.
But they have enough guys on that team that have eligibility left that some of them are going to come back. And
of course they are.
I feel like they're in a really good position because I don't see it going full Robert Morris. Like Robert Morris, from 2 years ago, lost everybody but Prather. And from a standpoint of Wright State, like they're probably going to lose a guy or two or three or whatever. But they had so many guys contributing that I think that there's a good chance for them to retain some of this and then build around that. Now, The flip side of this with the tournament, I saw the little interview with Jared Calhoun. He was talking about Utah State, and they spent $2.4 million on their roster. Right now, people are saying that high-end Horizon League rosters are, in the upper six-figure range, close to $1 million. You think of the other mid-majors that won, SLU and VCU. SLU has money for days. VCU has massive student fees from their enrollment, so they have, they spend a lot on their team. And then High Point's just a whole different, academic animal in terms of how they built their school and what they're doing there.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, if you're Wright State and you can keep, a couple of your key pieces, and then you still have a little money to go out and get some more, you're not that far away again from repeating. So it's just a different way of doing things. The biggest challenge in the portal era is what happens to like a Youngstown State, where they spend a lot of money on their basketball team, but the pieces never really fit this year. They looked good on paper, but they couldn't bring it all together. So coaching, probably more than anything, is going to matter. And so
Yeah.
if you're Wright State, can you keep Clint Sargent? He's to be able to know what he's doing. And if you're any of these other teams, you think about, like we talked about Oakland, they have Coach Campy, a proven commodity.
Yeah.
Now, granted, he's
Exactly.
the complete outlier in the landscape of college
Oh, he
basketball
absolutely is.
because of his age and his desires, to just maintain
Well,
building.
keep in mind too, Jim. Keep in mind too, Jim, and I gotta remember this. I gotta remember this because when we originally had him on, when we first had him on the podcast in 2019, this is like 7 years ago. Greg Campy was not a fan of the portal at all. I mean, the but being a guy who's been in the game for as long as he has, he might have been initially resistant to it, but he knew that and he said this multiple times ever since. It's a matter of adapt or die. And he has certainly adapted. And now I think to your point, I think um when you are when you're in this place where you have completely new rosters, there are going to be years that you hit and miss, like with Youngstown State this year. I mean, last year it worked because last year they only had two guys hold over from the year before, and the rest of them were two or three guys, and the rest of the guys were guys from the portal, and that worked. This year it didn't work. They're gonna be hit and miss years for years. Since Robert Morris was entered the Horizon League up until last year, they were having they Andy Toole was working really hard to kind of crack the code with what to do with his roster because he constantly had roster turnover in some cases in the middle of the season. And it was only just last year where he was able to get the right pieces together and he was able to replicate that this season. So there's going to be a lot, especially in our league. There is going to be a lot of trial and error, and there are going to be seasons where, to your point, on paper, you have an outstanding roster, but for one reason or another, things don't work. Another case in point is Milwaukee. Milwaukee, on paper, had an outstanding year, but in their case, they couldn't stay healthy and they lost guys left and right, and they suffered for that. And there wasn't really anything they could do about that one. So yeah, there's going to be in this era, in the new landscape, in this college basketball arms race, there are going to be hit and miss years for the Horizon League. And it is incumbent upon us to understand that. And I don't know if we're capable of doing that, Jim.
Well, one thing I'm kind of thinking about, two things I'm thinking about. So one, it's going to lead to my second point here. Think about TJ Birch for just a second. He came from Ball State. Ball State endured a very difficult season, a lot of rumor around their coach who eventually did get fired. And you think about, had he stayed at Ball State, instead of being a darling of mid-major basketball, he would have just been a guy on a crappy team. So he chose wisely. I think that's somewhere in it might be a Star Wars line somewhere, choose wisely.
Actually, I believe that's one of the Indiana Jones movies.
Oh,
I think
yes, thank
Indiana
you.
Jones and the Last Crusade, if I'm not mistaken. Probably, I think the one movie I've seen like maybe 10 minutes of, but I've seen that part.
Hey,
he chose wisely.
My point is something old from the 80s. Anyway, when I think about it, he chose wisely. But here's where I was going with this. When I think about like maybe cracking the code for mid-majors at the Horizon League level, I think the code is sophomores. And hear me out on this. It's going to sound crazy. But like TJ Birch probably is worth a lot of money in the portal right now if he chooses to do something.
Oh, he absolutely is.
Speaking openly. But going from Ball State as a freshman to Wright State, because I believe he's a sophomore, if I'm not mistaken.
He is. Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
He probably wasn't that high valued in the portal. You think of over in Detroit, you think they brought in those freshmen 2 years ago. They grew them, and Nadu became an
Yeah.
all-conference player. You look at Green
Uh-huh.
Bay. CJ O'Hara is a walk-on turned scholarship player who became an all-conference player who's now in the
Yeah.
portal, but he did that from freshman to sophomore year. You think about the
Mhm.
Robert Morris team 2 years ago. They added some really nice pieces, obviously, in Dickerson and the other guy that's over at the little guy, Cam Woods. But
Yeah.
Alvaro was a
Volgaris.
yep. He went from
Yes.
a freshman with them to a sophomore, was player of the year. You think
Oh, and
about
let's
this
not forget
year,
Deshaun Good, Player of the Year, who
Deshaun.
is in fact a sophomore as well.
So I feel like maybe the secret for success for our league right now at this level is all right. You're not likely to hold guys for 4 years, but if you
No.
want to have the highest impact at the value point that an upper six-figure roster can go with, it's
Mhm.
probably finding talented freshmen that you can
Yeah.
keep for 2 years, or finding undervalued portal guys. I mean, Deshaun Good is a really good example. He had a very nice freshman year at IU Indy, but
Yeah.
did anybody and their brother think he was going to be conference player of the year this year? I mean,
No.
people had him on all conference,
Well,
but
we
not.
still didn't because we didn't vote for him because we suck.
But I'm saying
But
people
to
thought
be
he might
fair,
be
we
all
had Corey
conference.
Had. But to be fair, we picked Corey Hadnot, an outstanding player who has already announced he's in the portal, and Brody Robinson, who was a guy from the portal.
Yeah. So I'm just saying that like it seems to me that maybe some of the secret sauce is what are you doing with your freshman to
Yes.
sophomore, getting some key players there and just saying, hey, look, everybody's going to tell you I'll get you to the big time because that's what everybody says. Well, I'll help you, the guy that helps you make money. But at the end of the day, like just really honing in on that age group because those second year players have made their biggest jump, that they're probably going to make in
Yeah.
terms of skill level. Finding
Mhm.
guys in that world and just saying, hell, we're going to roll with a couple of these kind of players, and if we can get older guys, that's great too. But I feel like maybe there's a little opportunity there, just thinking through what's actually happening around the league right now.
Yeah. And I think there is you are that's a there is some truth to that because when you look at the two teams that met in the finals, are two teams that you had a couple of key pieces that were older on both ends. With Detroit Mercy, obviously, Legend Jeter and uh, Orlando Lovejoy. But and on the Wright State end, you had Michael Amari Bay and to a lesser extent Sam Alamudu. But most of the guys were freshmen and sophomores. In the case of Detroit Mercy, most of those sophomores were guys who were initial recruits for Monty. And almost the same thing with a couple of TJ Birch aside, most of the guys that Sargent had on his end were freshmen. I mean, do we? I mean, let's be. We need to be perfectly honest with ourselves. Does anybody? Do any of you expect after the sophomore years? Do any of you expect Kellen Pickett and Michael Cooper to be around for Wright State after their sophomore year? The answer should be no, because they are both of them are outstanding players, and to your point, those were guys who weren't really on definitely weren't on our radar, but definitely guys who could excel, could make if they're this good now, you can imagine what their jump is going to be next year and then the year after that, and I think that for as much as we talk about kind of roster building at this level at the Horizon League, everybody's got a different way of doing it. But the two teams that made it to the finals of the conference tournament are guys who who built their rosters by and large with few exceptions on high school recruits. And I know Monty mentioned this in the press conference in Indy is that he's got four freshmen coming in. Now, does that mean he's not going to utilize the portal? Absolutely not. In fact, he's got the top scorer from Wayne State coming in. He announced that he was going to be coming to Wright State, not Wright State, coming to Detroit Mercy next year. So guys like Sargent and Monty are not averse to looking at the portal. They're certainly not. They'll look at that. They'll get guys. but the core for them is going to be within looking at recruiting for at the high school level, seeing the diamonds in the rough to see who they can develop, and then if you get 2 good years out of those guys, and then they eventually seek the brighter lights through the portal, God bless them.
In the case of Wright State, a guy who's, I think, sneaky underrated is Dominic Pangonis. I love his size, and he's a sophomore out of the portal. He was at Stephen F. Austin as a freshman, and he's just a little bit of a do-everything guy for them. Like, he doesn't start, but that's another type of guy. That's the kind of guy that you're like, you see his skill set, and if he were to stay at Wright State, and let's say they have a roster turnover, that's a guy I could see stepping into a bigger role with their program as a junior. But that's the kind of guys I'm talking about. Like, they're the right size, but they're, he didn't have great stats at Stephen F. Austin. So like, he wasn't at 6'7" as a, kind of a wing player. He wasn't.
I was waiting for a breakout game from him too, by the way.
Yeah, he had a couple of nice. He was really good in the semifinal game against Northern Kentucky. He just did a little of everything. Talking about Coach Montgomery, I think that something that happened in the MAC that's going to be really good for him is Eastern Michigan fired Stan Heath and then replaced him with Billy Donlin. And I think Billy Donlin is a proven commodity at this point. He did well at Wright State. Kansas City is not an easy job, and he was winning some games out there. He's probably going to win at Eastern Michigan. But he doesn't strike me as the kind of guy who's going to be like all in on getting the Detroit area portal guys back to EMU, which is what Stan Heath was doing. And then I forget who was there before Stan Heath, but that guy was doing it too. Coach Montgomery, I didn't really realize this, but he, through his connections at Michigan State and being a coach in Michigan for as long as he has, he is well connected. And so I think Detroit, it's talking about getting portal, doing well in the portal. Now, I don't know what their financial component looks like, but if you just talk about like, hey, there's a lot of guys that play basketball that are from Michigan that are going to be in the portal. He's probably best positioned now with even less competition to get the guys that he really, really wants. And now that they had a year where they got to the Horizon League finals and they did it with Michigan guys, like I'm pretty curious to see what he's going to, do with Detroit moving forward. But separately, there's a guy from Toledo that's in the portal named Phoenix Glasner. I don't know if Phoenix Glasner can play or not, but damn it, his name's Phoenix, and if he doesn't end up in Green Bay, then that's a travesty.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. And by the way, Jordan Briggs is the guy who is coming over from Wayne State. He spent 3 years at Wayne State. And I feel like that's the other thing too. Not just with building with freshmen and sophomores, but also kind of looking in places that we years past we didn't look. By we, I mean coaches, and that is, of course, looking at non-division, non-division one non-division one players.
Justin Allen from Green Bay was playing D3
Division III, exactly.
And by all accounts, everything that he was doing at Carnegie Mellon, it transferred. I mean,
exactly.
He's in a little bit of an outlier. There was a guy that was at St. Thomas last year, and he's at Tulsa this year. He's from Sheboygan, Wisconsin. His name's Miles Barnstable. He was at Whitewater, which is a D3, and he went from D3 Whitewater to St. Thomas, had a breakout season, and then finished his career at Tulsa. I mean, and had a really good season in the American Athletics. So there are players. You have to do your homework, though. Not every D3 guy is going to translate. You got to really be on top of and understand what you're looking for and what your team's trying to do.
Honestly, Darren Horn's been doing this for years already. He really has. Between Xavier Rhodes, Michael Bradley, Dan Goretzker, Josh Dilling, Cale Robinson, all of those guys came out of non-D1. So Darren Horn knows the value of this. I mean, even Rob Summers does too. I mean, Trey Beard was in I think Shawnee State is an was an NAIA school. I think they're Division II now, but looking at those non-Division I guys, By the way, there's some non-division one guys out there in the portal now, but I think I have this sneaky feeling they're going to end up they might end up in one of a couple places. See if you can guess who I'm talking about, Jim, because that's going to segue into my next thing.
I'll
Because
I'll let the audience guess. Bob, what's next on the list?
well, Matt Mackerzak is now officially the new head coach at Northern Illinois. Um, so yes, Northern Illinois folks, we have now you're still technically in the MAC, still playing MAC's teams, still in the you're in spring sports season in the MAC. But as far as you're concerned, you are for basketball. You're in the Horizon League now, so we get to talk about you. We get to talk about Matt Mackerzak as the new head coach and a couple of his guys. We actually talked about these guys last week. Cal Klesmit, who was originally a Green Bay commit. Now I so well Bennett Bassage was on Green Bay last year. He redshirted and then he ended up going to Northern Michigan. Cal Klesmit and, and walk me through this because he committed in 23 and then decommitted after Sonny got the job and ended up going to Northern Michigan. Is that what happened? I don't remember.
Yep, that's what happened. So at the time that Will Ryan was, uh, moved on from being head coach of Green Bay, they had three people committed. They had Marcus Hall, Mac Recchi, and Cal Klesmit. They were all freshmen from the state of Wisconsin, committed to Will Ryan's recruiting class.
Uh-huh.
And when Will Ryan wasn't brought back, all three players were given the opportunity to honor um, the letter of intent that they signed. But
Mhm.
Cal Klesmit, apparently on his own, chose to seek other opportunity. He didn't think that playing with Sundance and Green Bay was the right fit, and so he went to Northern Michigan. And one of the things about Cal Klesmit that's important to note is that at that time he was coming off of I believe he had an ACL tear, so
Mhm.
he was a very promising player in the state of Wisconsin, but late in his high school career had a knee injury, and so he wasn't fully recovered. Even if you look in his 3 years at Northern Michigan, I believe he sat out 1 year, and then even last year he wasn't necessarily, um, having a great year. He had a breakout season this year, so
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of the history of Cal Klesmit.
Yes, because I believe Klesmit was the second leading scorer for them. He averaged like 12.2 a game. And so he was definitely him and Cal Klesmit was absolutely he was the second leading scorer on on that roster. So clearly he's certainly he's certainly improved and certainly gotten his a little healthier over the years. So, but I mean, he may end up back in the Horizon League, be it with Northern Illinois or somebody else. You never know.
Oh, there's a social media report yesterday that of the school D1 schools, many had contacted him. Green Bay was one of them. So
Sure.
there's obviously one of the assistant coaches at Green Bay is a former Northern Michigan assistant. So
Kilgans, yeah.
there's connections for Cal in many places. Cal's older brother was a Wofford player who went to Wisconsin and had
Yeah.
a very good career. Cal's younger sister is going to play at Wright State next year as a freshman.
Hmm.
So that the Klesmit family is I don't want to say an institution in Wisconsin basketball because it's not multi-generational from what I can tell, but in the last 10 years, 5 to 10 years, they've had three kids that are going to play Division I college basketball, and
Yeah.
that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. You know who I'm gonna throw Northern Kentucky in the mix just because Dan Goresger is from up in the Upper Peninsula too. So might as well
Dan's from
throw him
Mil-
in. Might as well
Dan's from
throw
Milwaukee,
Northern. Yeah,
but he played up there. Not he played at the other Upper Peninsula school. So yeah, but you could just
that's
say
why I
this.
said because I know there's Northern Michigan and Michigan Tech. I know that
Yeah,
they're both up there.
yeah, and you could just say this for Northern Kentucky. To your point, Coach Horn's done a fantastic job of identifying talent at
Mhm.
the Division II level. He's done a
Yeah.
fantastic job of finding Wisconsin players because you think about Wells, Goresger, Josh Dilling. Those are all Wisconsin guys that he got to come down to Highland Heights. So
Yeah,
yeah, you could if Coach Horn sees a guy that he thinks is a good fit, if Cal Klesmit's a good fit, you can guarantee he's going to call him, assuming he's
absolutely.
not the associate head coach at the University of Miami next
Oh my
season.
God! By the
Which
way,
is
I'm glad
which
you
is what the internet, the unnamed internet people,
the
which is
unnamed internet people.
always a good source. But I follow them because sometimes they're right, and the rest of
Sometimes
the
they
time they're
are.
really engaging and fun.
Well,
So
I just thought of it. I'm glad you brought that up because I actually had to deep dive in this because because Darren Horn and Jay Lucas were assistants together at Texas, and obviously Jay Lucas is at Miami now, of Florida, not Ohio. Um, and they're still playing as of this recording. And if I recall correctly, his associate head coach Eric Pastrana is was in the running for the Florida International FIU job. He didn't get that. I guess he's in the running for the Georgia State job. So all the chatter about and apparently this is a conversation that was had last year too. But apparently all the chatter is basically contingent upon Eric Pastrana going somewhere. And if he doesn't get another job, I mean, this is a pretty much dead issue anyway. So
yeah,
I'm
I
working
just
under the running assumption that Darren Horn will be back here next season.
I was just throwing it out there for fun since it was on Samurai. Was it Samurai Hoops or who? It was
Samurai
like a
Hoops, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Samurai Hoops, which does put some good content out there for those who don't follow the Samurai. It's enjoyable, but from a standpoint of having just seen that now, the FIU job, the guy who got that, apparently he's
Yeah.
backed by some money somewhere
Yeah.
along the way, whether it's federal Florida state government money or like large donors. So there's some connection there. Obviously, he kicked butt at Daytona State. One of the previous coaches at Daytona State was Ryan Ritter, who went to Tennessee
Yeah.
Martin and did well, and is now doing well at Mercer. So
Yeah.
it's probably a good hire for FIU. And as a ripple effect for Horizon League, good that Pastrana didn't get the job. So,
There's still the Georgia State job out there. You never know.
which is another really good job. They have a beautiful new arena. They're right in the heart of downtown
And let's
Atlanta.
not forget
That
who was at
massive
Georgia
school
State,
with
sir.
Xavier.
Ro-
What's the guy? The guy from Xavier. What was the
No,
coach
that
there?
was
Jonas Hayes.
Richard Pitino.
No, he was at
No.
Florida Atlantic.
Yeah. What? Yeah, you know what? I can't keep my Florida straight. It's Florida, man.
Florida Atlantic had because they had all of the guy who was the North Carolina coach at one point.
Matt
What was
Doherty
that? Matt Doherty. They had him
was.
because then they had. I'm pretty sure Richard Pitino was there. And FIU, they've had like a random one of those. Actually, one of those two.
By the
had,
way, I'm referring to
Michael
Ron
Curry.
Hunter. Ron
Oh
Hunter
yeah,
was the coach at Georgia State.
Georgia State. Yeah.
Guy who I wish we had. By the way, I'm looking through the roster, and Ron Hunter has as one of his assistants Ray McCallum Sr. Remember that guy?
Oh yeah. Hey, the last time Detroit went to the big dance, Ray McCallum Sr. was the man that took him there.
Yeah, he was exactly. So I mean, yeah, it's been that long, folks. But yeah, you feel like you're gonna get it. You feel like this would, of all the seasons, this would be the season that Horizon League gets out relatively unscathed as far as coaching changes is concerned, but you never know.
It's such the ripple effect, the right
I mean,
job
at this
opens with
point
the right
last year,
connection.
I mean, seriously, at this point last year, we thought Daniel Robinson was going to be back at Cleveland State. We thought that Paul Corsaro was going to be back at IUND, and neither of those things happened.
Yeah, and if you look at the league, around the league, and you'd say, okay, Coach Montgomery did well, but
Yeah,
there's probably not well enough yet.
yeah,
Gottlieb did well, but not well enough yet. Coach
yeah.
Lundy had a down season. Coach Hoffman, kind of delivered what he's always been delivering. But from a standpoint, like you wouldn't see a readily, available guy. Maybe Coach Toole, because he's had two really good years back to back. The right kind of thing opened up, but hopefully for the Rising, I mean, we have really good coaching in this league.
Yeah.
You wouldn't really say there's anybody that's Rolly Massiminoing it and just collecting a check right now. Like there's, it's basically a good group of
How
guys.
dare you speak ill of the dead?
Hey, I can because he can't send me a DM and say what the hell are you talking about. So that's why I picked that one. I mean, there were other obvious
Wow.
choices, but
Wow.
hey, speaking of transfers, I think it'd be important to just kind of recap real quick, Bob. We had an interesting week on outbound transfer announcements in the Horizon League. We have Priest
We
Ryan.
did. We did. You know what? And I gotta say this. I gotta say this. And by the way, go to the transfer tracker on horizonroundtable.com. Okay. I'm gonna say this again. We use the cumulative career stats. I'm not nitpicking. We have to track the transfers in and out for 12 schools now, guys. And this ain't the Burger King tracker, man. You can't have it your way. We're using cumulative career stats from their 4-year schools, okay? I'm not digging into the crates of the JUCOs, guys. That's what it is. It is what it is. You didn't have a problem with it last year, didn't have a problem with it the year before. You didn't have a problem with what John Parker was doing them. Give us a little bit of grace for Christ's sakes. Jesus. Anyway, that
Big
was
week though,
that.
because you had
Oh, really?
Priest Ryan jump into the portal. You had from Detroit Nate Johnson and
Yeah.
Keyshawn Fisher. Both those are guys that I look at and go, if they find the right opportunity, the right fit, those are mega players. I mean, those guys. Keyshawn
Yeah.
Fisher is supremely talented. Nate Johnson. It's hard to tell. Like I was super impressed in the semifinal game. Like he came in
Oh, yeah.
and made a three, and got another bucket. I think he'd been out of the rotation, and that was a guy that averaged like 9 points as a freshman, and
He
obviously had a
did.
major regression as a sophomore because they upgraded over him, and so I can see why he's leaving because he wants a pathway to play. But I think that guy's a
Oh, yeah,
player.
absolutely.
Nate Johnson,
I
if you'd
mean,
like to come to Green Bay, please give Coach Gottlieb a call. I'll put in a word for you. All kidding aside, like I think that guy's a player. But then obviously
yeah.
CJ O'Hara is a big loss for the league. Uh, Three guys out of IU Indy, including Jackson Edwards, who that St. Bonaventure year he probably gets back because he only played 5 games.
He does. Yeah, he
All of
does.
Oakland is now pretty much gone. And then
Yeah,
the
that
really
one's I'm looking at I had to think about, I had to ask Griffin Beers, who exactly is coming back next year? Because I don't know.
Jeff Smith and Greg Campy. Other than that, we're not
I
sure.
mean,
But the other
although
big
Jeff
one is
Smith's name was getting kicked around for one of the directional Michigan jobs, though.
yeah, yeah. And
He
then
keeps ending up in the running for those.
we had Hitakutis. That's a
Yep.
big one. And I didn't realize Zorgval had more time left. So, but he's
Yes,
in
he
the
did.
portal.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah, he had a redshirt. Zorgval had a redshirt year. Not last year, but the year before. He had a redshirt year when Gabe Dines when Gabe Dines was a sophomore.
got it.
Um, yeah, Zorgval was a redshirt last year. So yeah, he definitely had another year, and he definitely is going somewhere else. Um,
Yeah.
so all right, so I gotta say this because this is just ridiculous. All right, I mean, what was the just like exactly what was the I don't get what the NCAA was hoping to accomplish by moving the opening of the transfer portal to from the first week of competition from the end of the first week of first weekend of the tournament games to the end of the final four, because as was proved last year, if these guys are going to announce, they're not waiting for the portal open. They're announcing. They're going to
I'd
do
say
it. I mean,
I would
what was, I mean, I'm not, I failed to see, I think
they
my
can't
only
visit.
guess is the only reason that they did this is because they didn't want the college basketball crown to suffer, even though it suffers on its own for being mediocre basketball.
No, the reason behind doing it is that the teams that are still playing in the big dance are
Yeah.
falling behind on the portal if they can't recruit and can't focus on calling kids versus
Oh, and you think
versus
that they're not doing it on the low low? Come on
no,
now.
they are. But what I'm saying is like none of these kids are like CJ O'Hara is not taking any visits until April. So it's like it keeps it from and I'm not saying for sure I didn't talk to CJ O'Hara, but he just my understanding is that they can't. Like the window is not open for them to be doing these things. So this is like the pre-tampering window in the NFL. Like
I guess.
which is going on all the
I'm not
time.
going to shed a tear for the. I'm also not, but I'm not at the same time. I'm not going to shed a tear for UConn. I'm just not. I mean, look at this.
Hey,
The teams in the
they have
Sweet
an IU
16 are
Indy guy on their team, for God's sake.
Alec Millender. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, wait a second. I was watching the game the other
Yeah.
day because they had
Jim,
two of
we
their
had a
regular
whole
players out.
story on Chris Schumer wrote a whole story on him. That's on
Yeah,
HorizonRoundtable.com right now. And yeah, and he played some meaningful minutes and again and it worked. So yeah.
good for him.
Yeah, absolutely. But no,
All
I
right.
mean, but they didn't get him until like way later anyway. But yeah, I'm not gonna. I'm sorry, but when you look at I'm sorry, when you look at the teams that are going to be in the Sweet 16, these are guys who are going to. I'm not worried about them. You know, I'm not going to worry about them, mostly because of the fact that okay, these guys are in the Sweet 16 for a reason. And I don't think that, and they were in the Sweet 16 I mean, there's a bunch of them that were in the Sweet 16 last year, and there's no I mean, they're going to change their coaches before they start worrying about what's in the transfer portal because they get the teams that are the teams that are that are generally in the Sweet 16 basically get the pick of the litter anyway. And I don't think a 2 week, yeah, I don't think a 2 week delay is gonna. I don't think they're gonna suffer from a 2 week delay. I just don't think so. I never did. But whatever. I don't know anything.
I hear you. But right now, that is the focus. The next time we reconvene will probably be a really deep dive on who else is going. Is anybody coming yet? Because right now we're in a
Oh
spot
no,
where
the next episode hopefully will be a conversation with Matt Magrazak.
yeah.
Hey,
Well, I mean,
we got to get that done.
wait a second, Matt. You're telling me that you are moving from Michigan to Illinois. You started a new job. You just wrapped up your season, and you didn't have time to come on the Horizon Roundtable podcast in your first 5 days on the job. Come on, Matt. Be better than that. You're not.
He
What are we doing here, Matt? No, I'm just kidding. I suppose he's a little busy, but yes, hopefully he will
We
be
got to
able to
ask him
join.
about we got to ask him about his 2K NIU Dynasty team on PlayStation, or I'm pretty sure it was PlayStation, but yeah, we got to ask him about that now because he did make mention of that. So, okay.
Yeah.
Consider that
All right,
question
Bob.
asked, sir.
We're leading with it. The hard hitting stuff that people want to know.
Yeah, exactly.
All
So,
right.
all
I
right.
think we're going down a rabbit hole. This is probably a good place to wrap her up.
However, before that, we got to shout out the Green Bay women. They were 3/4 away, they were 10 minutes away from upsetting Minnesota, and then Minnesota flipped a switch, and good lord.
Yeah, and then the last like six baskets that Minnesota got on those fast breaks were just kind of like, it's like the air was out of the balloon a little bit, and
Oh yeah.
the final score is definitely not indicative of how well Green Bay played. The one thing I really appreciate about Coach Kayla, her
Mhm.
comments afterwards, though, they
Yeah.
they really make you believe like these guys are going to build something. They have a great program in terms of mid-major getting to the tournament, but
Hmm.
I really believe in her and her vision of saying, look, it's not about just getting here anymore. That's not good
Yeah.
enough. And
Hmm.
when somebody, it takes courage to be the one to raise the standard, to step out and say something bold. And I just really
Yeah.
appreciate that in the moment, like she was so appreciative of what that team accomplished and yet so powerfully confident in what they can do as a program going forward. Horizon League women's basketball, you've been on notice for 30 years. You're on higher alert now because, if Green
Yeah.
Bay is looking at things going, we're going to step this thing up a little bit.
Hmm.
I mean, that's everybody's going to have to raise their bar then. So I love what she said,
Exactly.
even in defeat, going down fighting. And I really love what she said after the game. So shout out to her and all the women, on that team. They had a great season. And honestly, I thought they were going
Absolutely.
to pull that out, especially like when it took 35 minutes for Minnesota to really assert their will. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
Green Bay's going to get it done. And unfortunately, for the second or third time this year against a Big Ten team, it kind of slipped away at the end.
Yep. All right. Well, now we can wrap it up.
All right, Bob.
All right. So theoretically, next week, I'm gonna work on this. We're either gonna talk about more people leaving, or we're gonna talk to Matt Mack or Zach. One of the two. Uh, But until then, horizonroundtable.com, that's where all of our podcast episodes and all of our articles are, including the Chris Schumer story on Alec Millender, by the way. You can pull us up wherever podcasts are available. You can pull us up on your Amazon or Google devices. So tune in next time. Until then, thank you all for listening.